How you doing, Jeff?
I'm good. Happy Monday.
Thank you. Happy Monday to you too. It's an interesting Monday at the Peterson household. We
Yeah.
have four grandchildren here that I had the bunk room is right above my office. The bunk room, that's where the kids sleep.
Okay.
And I had to kick them out of there. Whoa, my internet just went really blurry. Anyway, I had to kick them out of there because they are decided they're going to build a fort in the bunk beds or on the bunk beds, however you say that. And it was, let's just call it really loud up there.
Oh, just a little.
Just a little. I swear to God, they were jumping off the bed, but top of the bunk beds onto the floor. But anyway, so much for that. So here we are
Yeah.
for um, busy day of talking about staying in your own lane. Not only staying in your own lane, but the title is "You Can Stay in Your Own Lane."
I know. I really like that. That
It,
you can. It can be done.
this is true, and part of that is giving yourself permission and believing you can stay in your own lane. You don't have to do everybody's job for them. In
Yes.
fact, you probably shouldn't do everybody's job for them. So I just want to invite anybody who's with us watching the live stream today to let us know you're with us in the chat. Just type in, hey, I'm so and so, and we'll respond to any questions or insights you have. We're more than happy to talk about them. So please let us know. Um, just felt the need to throw that in there.
I was going to do it this week if you didn't, because we tend to get on such a roll that we forget to invite people to join us in the chat sometimes.
Wait, we get on a roll?
I know that would never happen. I don't know what I was talking about.
So when you hear staying in your own lane, Jeff, what do you think about? There's nothing like just throwing a question at you that I've not warned you about at all.
I know. First impression is people that are on their cell phone texting while driving and they're swerving into your lane. But I know that's not what we're talking about.
No, no, it's not. But that's an interesting metaphor. And just for the record, I did that one time. We'll never do it again because it scared the bejesus out of me when it happened.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I have also done that in the world of work and leadership on occasion.
I think
And
we all have.
it's not suggested.
No. And I think there's this thought or idea, I think, sometimes with business owners that, if I want it done right, I'll do it myself. Or it'll be faster if I do it myself, which sometimes may be true. If
In
you
the beginning,
Yes, if you think about you've done this for so long, right? And now you've brought on someone else for the team, but you're more efficient at this particular task because you've been doing it for years. And then you start to expand your team. And yes, while it can feel like you're going slow, teaching someone what needs to happen and onboarding them, they're not going to be as fast as you. But when you start to veer over into that lane, and continue to do that work, you're not doing anyone any favors.
including yourself.
Exactly.
Matter of fact, the person you're doing the least favor to, aside from being an annoying micromanager, is yourself.
Yeah.
It, you are defeating the purpose of why you brought this person onto your team and are paying them money because I doubt seriously they're doing it as a volunteer. And if they are, they need their head examined.
Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
a spouse. I mean, well, never mind. um, yeah, that is a really good point. And you're right. As a business owner, especially as a founder, business owner in general, but as a founder specifically,
Yes.
it's often very, very difficult to let go of anything that has to do with moving your business forward.
Yeah.
But if you want to put a lid on how you can grow, that is probably the fastest way to do it.
And I think there's a distinction that sometimes people that maybe are still swerving into a lane, what they hear when someone talks about this, which is 100% complete not control, right? Just walking away from the process. It's not that you're walking away, right? Because I've heard this before. Well, it's my business. I need to be in tune. Yes. I mean, we use the example all the time about outsourcing your books, right?
Yeah.
That's fine to let go of, but you still have a responsibility to your company to understand your numbers at the end of the day and make sure that you're getting timely reports. It's not that you're the one doing, all the debits and credits and all of that, but there should be, in elevating your skills, you're no longer in doing these things in QuickBooks or whatever. You've outsourced it, but you still have that obligation to know what's going on financially with your business, which instead of doing all the work, right, that might be looking at a P&L and a balance sheet that gets sent to you once a month to make sure things look good. Did we make money? Did we not make money? Were we profitable? Were expenses out of line? It's more of a higher level strategic viewpoint, not, oh, I'm just not going to do that. You're telling me to let go and just let someone else handle everything.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it's taking that higher strategic view of those things that you've hired others to do and not in the weeds, punching the keys on the keyboard.
Your punching keys on a keyboard is there's a very different focus to the punching the keys on the keyboard for the owner as the business grows than it is in the early days when you may have done your own books.
Yeah.
Or done your own hiring or done your own production, even if it's a product-based company. I mean, there's a lot of times when somebody in the beginning when it was a concept-based company as opposed to a production-based company. I think I just made those words up. I'm not sure that that's really something that exists, but
we're going with that.
Absolutely. But yeah, that's such a different perspective. And being able to let go of that is really the mark of a true entrepreneur. Because a true entrepreneur is not going to be in the weeds as that business grows. I'm going to use a different word because in the weeds sounds very negative. They're not going to be in the details as the business grows.
Yeah, I think that's
you can't be. You cannot be in the details and the minute small things that happen day to day that are critical to your business being successful, but it's not critical that you're doing it.
Yeah.
You should not be doing it.
Yeah. And you know what else you can't do?
What?
Push a rope uphill.
Oh, God, really? Seriously.
You just said open that up. So
I don't know how I did that, but okay. But here's the deal. Trying to do every single thing as your business grows is trying to push a rope uphill. And I'm just going to jump in on your side. Because you did mine. Putting that rope in a wheelbarrow is hiring the right people and releasing the responsibility of the work to them. Notice I didn't say releasing all the results, even though you do need to give them authority to get the results.
This pushing a rope uphill is the metaphor that just keeps on giving throughout this is the second season, I think, that this has kind of come up.
Depends on your definition of keeps on giving. I'm just saying.
It's like a gift. It just keeps on giving and giving and giving.
And the metaphors we can use it for are amazing. So, yeah. We're talking about EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System, which is a framework this month. And one of the reasons we titled this one that you can stay in your own lane is because within the Entrepreneurial Operating System, there are two very high level leadership roles, the visionary and the integrator. And the visionary is a very idea focused, concept focused. I used the term at one point in my content for this month, intuitive, which sometimes gets you into big trouble, just for the record. So an intuitive leader that, has this big picture vision and sometimes can go off on a tangent and be 500 miles down the road, and maybe they need to come back about 250 miles of that. And then there's the systems focused leader who is the integrator. Because as a visionary, while you may have some really high level concepts of systems and know that things need to happen, really actually implementing and sticking with things over time, well, as somebody who tests pretty high on the visionary side of things, it is a massive challenge.
Yeah, can be
I
a
mean,
challenge.
I'm just saying, it is a massive challenge to keep the blinders on, stay focused all the time, not look at that shiny diamond over here. Oh, but that's really cool, and I would love to. How can we integrate that into what we're doing right now? Stop. Just stop. Versus the integrator. And I'm not saying versus as in, fighting against each other, though, of course, as you and I both know, there are times when that happens.
Oh, yeah.
That's why you have to have a trusted person in both of these roles. There has to be trust between these two roles, or it will not work. Because there's going to come a time when the integrator is going to tell the visionary, what the hell are you thinking?
Yeah, it's, and I think that's when we're talking about the entrepreneurial operating system, that book Rocket Fuel really talks about the relationship between visionaries and integrators. And when those two skill sets mix together, it's kind of like rocket fuel for a business.
Yeah, absolutely.
And staying in those particular lanes, means different things when you're working together. And I would say that the number one thing is that both those roles stay on the same page.
Yes.
What's going on in the direction, because there's nothing that can be worse than you have an integrator helping to execute your vision and strategy, and then you go around that integrator to have conversations with people on the staff about these new and different ideas, and then everyone's off in 50 different directions. And what ends up happening is the team's not rowing in the same direction towards the same mission vision of the organization. And that's one of the ways when I work with visionaries is having that same page kind of meeting where we're having this discussion on what's on your mind, Rhonda, for this week. What types of things are you looking at, or ideas that you're coming up with, and being that thought partner to filter some of that. So not, 100% of that doesn't go to the team, because it's, hey, Rhonda, that sounds great, but how does that fit in with this particular quarter's focus areas and rocks? This seems like a 180 from what we've already decided as the team. Is this really a topic for next quarter when we plan our next quarter rocks, or right, has something happened in the market or with our customer, where there's
or did you talk to a vendor who wants to sell you X, Y, or Z, and they've got your ear? Because that can happen. I mean, God only knows that if there's a founder or an owner and someone who's a vendor, and this is not a bad thing, I'm just saying it is what it is. If that vendor talks to the owner, the ultimate decision maker, and says blah blah blah, and this would be the greatest thing, and you can get 6x whatever you're doing now.
Yeah.
I don't know, I just made that up, but that will turn someone's head, especially if they're a visionary and new things excite them. And there's a lot of us out there, whether we're a visionary or an integrator, that new things excite us. It's like, oh, that's really a great idea. How can I incorporate that into my business? And how does this make sense? And as a visionary, I can come up with 6 different ways that this could be incorporated and make sense, because the vendor who's proposed this to me is making it sound like the best thing possible.
Yep.
Because who does it benefit? Well, it may benefit my company. I'm not saying it won't, but it's definitely going to benefit the bottom line of the person who's bringing it to me.
Yeah. That
The
is,
question is it mutually equally beneficial?
yeah,
And that's why you need,
100%.
yeah, an integrator to speak into that to you as you are making the decision.
Yeah.
And that's why you need to understand what your lane is, how you defined it, and whether it's realistic or not.
Yeah. Because there's a component of this even, within EOS, they talk about letting go of the vine. So if you're the visionary leader, there comes a point where you've got to let go of some things in order to continue to grow.
Yes.
Organization as a leader, and this becomes one of those is, and oftentimes what I run into with visionary leaders when they're ready to bring in their first integrator, whether it's fractionally or full time, figuring out what that looks like and what I'll use the new normal looks like for them,
Mm-hmm.
and fully embracing kind of this visionary CEO role can be a little bit of a challenge. And how do you start to shift and let go of some of these things that have not allowed you to be in that visionary lane 100%, but you're at the point where you can and you should in order to continue to grow. And you might even recognize that I'm ready for this now. But then comes the hard part of how to
Yeah.
let go of some of these things that you're used to doing and you might have been doing for quite a few years.
And you might have been doing even before you started your company. It may be that you were doing these things for somebody else before you started your own company. And now, even things that you're good at need to be let go so that you can step into the role that is sustainably going to grow your company.
Yeah.
So, one of the things, one of the ways of implementing this, I guess I would say, that I saw someone do that was so powerful was a woman who had a company similar to what you and I do. And she made a decision as she built her company that when she got to this level, she was bringing in another person to do this. Now she already understood what EOS was.
Yeah.
And so when she got to this level, she was bringing in person number 1. And when she got to the next level, she was bringing in person number 2. She knew what she was going to hand off first, kind of like you and I both handed off the accounting. Why do we keep coming back to that, Jeff? I don't understand it. And then, as she built the company and she had this person on her team and the next level happened, she could know where she was going to let go next. And she was being very intentional about doing that. I loved watching, and she has been incredibly successful because she knows that when she gets where she wants to go to be a sustainable, ongoing organization, she's going to be doing things that are in this space right here. And all the other things, she's going to have other people who are
Yeah.
doing it. It's beautiful. Yeah. So
It is a really cool transformation to see when when owners start to go through that. And then as they get more comfortable with that transformation, seeing them let go of more and more to fully get into kind of that space, where they really shine and
mhm.
are able to kind of take that step back.
Yeah, that's so true. And the other thing that does is this is an executive coaching thought process. How do you give yourself permission to let go of those things? Because that's part of it, is giving yourself permission to not have to do every single thing, because your business has grown to that level you don't have to anymore.
Yep. I love that, giving yourself the permission to do that. That's really what it's about at the end of the day.
Yeah, it is.
It is a personal choice to get in one lane instead of driving down the middle of the road,
Not suggested.
multiple lanes.
Mm-hmm.
There used to be an old saying my dad used to use, which was, well, it was like, hey, you're straddling the line. And it was, well, I pay taxes on both sides. That's not what we're talking about here.
No, no.
It's really about, identifying which one of those lanes, being thoughtful, picking which lane you're going to stay in, and shift the car over, into that lane and stay in that lane.
Exactly. So there's one thing, Jeff, that we have never addressed around this, and it's something that there are definitely business owners out there who are integrators themselves. That's the space that they live in. They're really not a visionary in the thought process of the whole wide world is out there. And that doesn't make you a bad person by any stretch of the imagination. There, I'm sure, are large numbers of successful business owners out there who are integrators at heart, who are people who don't see the next big invention or innovation coming down the road. They are somebody who's found a market, they're successful in it, they know how to work as the integrator in their business. And they're going to have to sometimes be, float over into the visionary role. In some ways, the integrator space that they're in, there's a level of visionary in it. But there's also, and especially, if we think about 3 years ago when the pandemic started, somebody who had a very well functioning business that meant everybody came into the office every day and did their work, and then they went home, and then the world shut down.
Yep.
It's like, oh my gosh. Companies that didn't make it, they needed somebody to have a visionary thought process. And there were some visionaries out there, visionary voices is the word I'll use for it, that were out there that were saying, okay, well, there are ways we can do this. This is going to be a hard transition. God knows it was a hard transition for multitudes of people, the majority of us. That who the heck was not thrown for a loop by that? But if you are an integrator that's running a company, you need to figure out where the visionary voices are that you can tap into. When your business gets big enough, you can actually bring visionaries in to brainstorm with you, to do ideation sessions with you. But before that, where are the places that you can find those visionary voices and thought leaders that are out there to speak into what's possible for your business? That's one of the things where, and actually a friend, we've had her on the live stream before. Erin Longmoon and I are both visionaries, and we look at how can we tap into the fact that we're visionaries and we could, sell our services as visionaries to companies, kind of like integrators are fractional COOs or fractional integrators, whatever word you want to use for it.
Yeah.
Can you be a fractional visionary?
And what's interesting is I have seen some people moving into that space of being a fractional visionary or CEO for companies, which is kind of a unique market.
Yeah, very much so.
Because I don't remember where I read it, but I think on that there are more visionaries than there are integrators.
Oh, I believe that.
In the world. And that integrator pool is smaller than your typical visionary pool. And the other thing that sometimes I struggle with a little bit with this is that people can be both.
Yeah, absolutely.
People always talk about me being in that integrator. I forget what my score was, but I do have visionary tendencies. as well. I would say
I've seen them.
they're not as strong, right? That's not where I typically first go. But I do have it, just like you've probably got some integrator capabilities and abilities, but it's not where you typically go.
No, it's
You
not the default.
Yeah, that's a great way of saying it. It's not the default reaction or
Mhm.
natural tendency on how you're going to approach things.
Right, exactly. I'm totally drawing a blank right this minute, which is rather embarrassing, but I'm drawing a blank on what the assessment is from EOS that you can take, which I believe is free if I'm not mistaken, to figure out if you're a visionary or an integrator. And it's a scale. It's not you are this or you are this. There's a scale to a continuum for
Yeah,
the
it is.
results.
I think it's called the crystallizer quiz.
Yes, that is what it's called. Yes.
Yeah, where it's a list of 40 some questions and on a scale of 1 to 5. And then, it's an 8 to 10 minute assessment. And then it gives you kind of where you end up on that continuum.
Yeah.
Between those two roles.
Exactly. So I want to go back to something that we're talking about what is in your lane, because, and we talk about this being the entrepreneurial operating system. There is a concept that's been out there for, gosh, a good at least 15 years, maybe 20 now, that not only are there entrepreneurs that own their own businesses, but there are entrepreneurs within larger organizations who have this ability to see new possibilities and to start making them happen within a larger organization. So for those who are listening to our live stream or our podcast, and you're in a bigger company, but you're one of those people who sees opportunity and sometimes gets really frustrated in the larger organization you're in. That was me the whole time I worked in corporate. I am almost willing to lay money, Jeff, that was you also. It just came out in ping pong ball stunts. I'm just saying. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. So there are roles in those larger organizations where that's the places you need to find your lane if you want to stay in a larger organization. Just recognize that's a possibility, and they're looking for people who have the skills that you have. So figure out where your lane is and where it's realistic to use those skills.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that's kind of veering off from where we usually talk about, but the leadership skills you have and the way you can contribute at the highest level can be done in a larger organization. Or you can be like us and say, no, I'm doing it on my own.
Yeah. It's easier and faster. I can control 100% of what I want to do.
Yep. Absolutely. So, yeah. It's the finding that person that complements you, building the relationship, and when there are moments of challenge, sticking with it. When you were talking about having that weekly meeting, you want to say more about that? What that weekly meeting might look like, and how important it is to make sure you're on the same page?
Yeah, I mean, it's critically important. It's similar to parenting, right?
I think about that with this whole thing all
right.
the time.
If the kids don't like the answer, they're going to go opinion shop. So if I ask mom and didn't get the right answer, I'm going to go ask dad. And it's no different in the visionary integrator relationship in business, right? If other team members maybe don't like the answer that they get from their integrator, if they go around to the visionary and the visionary, is super excited because it's a great new idea, whatnot, may not even fit into the plan, but they say, yeah, go do it. Now you've got a disconnect.
There's an understatement. Yeah.
That's why that same page meeting and that, in my opinion, is so critically important because it's an opportunity to discuss issues that have come up,
Mm-hmm.
what the appropriate path forward is. I've had discussions around everything from new ideas in there on we're going to put this on a next quarterly discussion with the team. We're not going to change direction, and here's why.
Yeah.
To personnel, team member issues that come up, that maybe there's some developmental or performance coaching going on, to let the visionary know. So if they happen to hear about it, we're on the same page on what we're saying.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, that's so critical.
Relate back to the core values of the company and yada, yada, yada. And that type of stuff I think is so important for that relationship to be strong, because the stronger that relationship is, the better it is, in my opinion, for the whole organization. Because team members are not getting conflicting messages on priorities, on new things we are or are not pursuing. That to me is just one of the easy ways to stay in their own lane, because it's also an open forum to have those discussions on why are you still doing X, Y, and Z. That's in my seat, right? For our accountability chart, this was the integrator's role, not the visionary's role.
Right.
Talk about what happened and how do we kind of work through this together. So it gives a really great way, I think, not just to stay on the same page, but build more trust, between those two roles and as partners. I've had visionaries that have been very upfront and blunt with me about things, and I've done the same, right? On
I can picture that. I can picture that.
here's the challenge that this creates. So
Yeah.
what are we going to do, or how are we going to move through this together and in our own lanes, and using our skill sets, to benefit the business holistically.
Here's another thing that those meetings do. Speaking as a visionary, they focus and reinforce this is where we're going. Because as a visionary, like you're taking in all this new information and you hear about a new thing in the industry and, oh, wow, that's interesting. But in that weekly same page meeting, it brings it back around to, okay, this is where we're focused for now. This is what we need to be working on. And the purpose of doing these things is so that we can move the business forward. So all the great ideas in the world don't mean diddly if we're not moving the business forward on a day-to-day basis. And you better be listening to your integrator.
Yeah. And that's why I think this is such a timely topic to cover. It's just, you can define those, and those are typically defined through your accountability chart, and then staying in your lane,
right?
Executing on those things that are your accountabilities and what you're responsible for in the organization.
And as the visionary, you do have big rocks. There are goals you are responsible for. So if you're not focused on your big rocks, if you're off over here on some new idea that is tangentially related to what the business is doing, but the key word here is tangentially. Try to say that 3 times fast. You really
you can do it.
Yeah. You're going to get yourself in trouble. The big rocks are not going to be delivered, and then you're going to be left holding the bag.
Yeah.
It's really bad when you are the business owner and it's on you that we didn't meet our goals. There is nowhere else you can point the finger.
Yeah.
Only on you. It does not feel good.
That is very true.
Yeah.
And I grandmother used to always say, if you're pointing one finger out, there's three more pointing back at you.
Yeah, my dad used to say that too, which would have been the same generation as your grandmother, but we're not going down that road.
I wasn't bringing it up. I'm
I know.
smarter than that.
Uh,
Well, sometimes.
Good point, Jeff. So we have been talking for, 35 minutes now, Jeff, around this topic. Clearly, there's plenty to be discussed here.
Yeah.
Next week, we are going to talk about ROE, focusing on your energizers and why that's important. I don't know anybody who, okay, I'm the one. This is my thing. It's literally my thing.
It is.
Yeah, it is. And so we're going to talk about it next week. So I hope everybody comes back next week to listen in on this. And we do have a big announcement next week. So
yeah,
join us. Absolutely. So, Jeff, I hope you have a great week.
You the same, and same to everyone that took time out of their day to join us today.
Absolutely. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you next Monday at 12:15.
Yeah, sounds good.
Thank
See you
Jeff. Bye-bye.